Just giving Sam a hard time.
Now, had I known that, I would have tried to put off my call with my folks.
Please,
know.
please join. Yeah, everybody's having a lot of fun.
Wonderful. All right, Mimi, sorry about
All
that.
right, we can kick this off. Let's see, April 6, 2022, meeting of the Master Plan Committee, and we will do a roll call to prove that we have a quorum here. Signs,
Aye. Or here.
Stivers,
Here,
McKee,
Here.
Watson,
Here.
Marklear,
here.
and Braccio.
Here.
Oh, and Latrell here. So very good. So the first item on the agenda is the last edits of chapters of housing is the first one up.
Yeah.
Now, Judith, well, it's the same. I sent you the one. I don't know if I sent it already. I just sent it today. So if we want to reference that one, the committee met this morning. They were good with it. No changes, no edits, no additions. I'm gonna have to put this on the big screen.
No, I can do. I've got it there. Can you not see it?
I'm talking about Sam. I'm talking about him.
Thank you. The vision impaired.
My screen is now frozen.
Are you sharing yours already, Tom? Or am I sharing this?
You're sharing it.
Okay.
I don't have sharing privileges.
Yeah, for some reason it's not getting. Oh, wait a minute. That's because I do it in a different way. So I think everything. I mean, the main thing that you added though, Tom, was you added this little, just some commentary on the. Where are we?
Hang on, I think I'm.
Actually, wait a minute.
So this is pretty much the same version that we've seen previously. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm just checking through. Yeah. Yeah. There was one where you said look into, Tom, but I think it's just a minor one. I can just touch base with you offline.
I'm sorry, I just got back. I was having technical difficulties when I went to the big screen. So I missed everything.
Okay, we've gone through, here we are on residential units.
Yeah, the numbers didn't look into. I was gonna work with Sarah to find out why our numbers don't work together. So that's what my comment right there is, look into why the number is
okay.
different.
Okay.
And now this one right here, I mean, I don't have the EDC one. So I'm not sure what you meant on this comment.
That was a comment from Debbie.
Are we talking about the one on page in the red, you, or the one down by Debbie?
This one down here. Wait a minute, let me move mine.
I think mine was resolved. I didn't quite understand. I do think EDC has a similar sentiment in their chapter about, having more services for workers because they're out of towners who are employed here, or less people from town working in town. So I think they have a similar sentiment. I think yours matches pretty well, Tom. I don't know what that statement up there, and I didn't really understand it, but last meeting that was explained, so I think it's pretty good.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
So my comment goes away.
And then the minority people, I think that's more of it's not a goal or anything. I think that's just it's a fact. I consider that more of a fact. We can't
Yeah.
make a goal to have more people live in town and work in town. I mean, I
Right.
don't think that's even reasonable. I think it's just information.
Yeah, and I think it helps tell the story that we don't have enough affordable housing for people who are professional but who work in the town. That's so they can't afford to live in the town. They live outside the town.
And it also, it's a double-edged sword. We don't have the industry in town. We'll call it the high-paying jobs in town anyways,
to
so you can
employ
live in
them.
town and work in town.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, can I ask an unrelated question, I think here? I don't remember all the content in here, but I was interested in today's SHOPSI meeting about the MAPC presentation. And
Yeah, I
is-
did not attend this morning. I couldn't.
Is it worth?
I did. What do you need to know, Sam?
Is it worth including some of that stuff here in terms of some of those options for affordable development? I mean, I think that there were some good ideas there, and good context for some of this. And I can't remember if much of that is in here, frankly. I haven't reread this one recently.
I think we just mentioned, actually, it's down a little bit further if you want to go. Very little, Sam, very, very little.
But the MAPC person actually had a good PowerPoint thing that might be worth taking a quick look at to see if there's value in at least laying out some of the options that she was talking about there as a way of thinking about potential next steps. So again, I haven't reread this chapter in a while, so I can't remember if it was a good
I
place.
mean,
to put it.
I'm more than willing to listen to the meeting and to add some high-level recommendations. Like I said, it's early, and I don't want to put too much conclusion into it,
Sure.
but
Yeah, but to at least get a hook in here, if we come back later and want to do one of these things, it's actually good maybe to have at least a place in the master plan to say it's in here. In terms
Yeah,
of some
okay.
of the how options.
I think generally this touches on those
Okay,
things, though, doesn't it? Creating more diverse housing stock.
right, but the options in terms of finding a land that the town can contribute for a nonprofit to do a project, for example, versus a developer with some of the ways of subsidizing affordable components in programs through SHOPSI or other town resources. I think some of those concepts I thought were interesting to consider from an alternative standpoint, give you some options to pursue some of these things. And it's a couple of very specific ways that, not absolutely something we will do, but at least it opens the door to considering some different approaches. But again, Tom, defer to you to sort out if that makes sense.
I'll listen to it. I'll put something together and I'll share it. Or stick it in or make it all red. So we know
Yeah.
the new verbiage. I think go up a little bit, just wanna, and this is more of a Tom thing, is 40B has nothing to do with housing. 40B in my mind, and we can discuss this and I'm open for debate. It's a zoning tool. And I don't think we should mention diversity of housing, et cetera. Yes, we know the benefits of a 40B when we have our 10%, but is that really a housing goal?
Well, that's a way to get housing
Yeah.
that would
It's
not
a way
nat-
to get
not naturally be
housing.
developed.
But it always just mentions get our 40B, get our 10%, get our 10%. And this is the same thing I say in SHOPSI too. It's like, we're not there to get our 10%. We're there to find affordable housing, which will contribute to that. But our goal is not to get 10%. Our goal is
Right.
to go as much as possible. And that's really my essence of this is, we didn't mention chapter 40B, other than some recommendations. I just see it as a zoning type of tool, but I'm open.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is zoning, certainly. On the other hand, for me at least, that provides, corollary or in parallel housing that potentially is affordable. And so it's
So
a
it is
mechanism-
mentioned in the land use chapter.
Yeah, there's a couple of paragraphs in the land use.
Okay, so maybe the SHOPSI conversation today around affordable housing development goes in there as well, instead of going in here. I don't know. I just thought there was some interesting conversation this morning and might be useful to put in someplace here.
Do we want to reference it twice? I mean, or take it out of
Not-
that and put it into here?
Yeah, it should be in one place, I would think, as opposed to twice, but it doesn't matter to me where, as long as it's in there somewhere.
So as far as the conversation today, I don't think the master plan needs to get into the detail like the housing production plan did. I think we have the general goals in here that were mentioned today. And also, there's like always something new. There's going to be another presentation next week, and we can't keep updating and updating and updating.
Yeah, that's a very good point, is eventually you have to draw that line in the sand.
Sure.
So how about we can just put a reference to the land use and zoning for 40B. So if anyone's looking for a reference on 40B, we can say it's in there. Yeah, does that work?
Yeah, we can reference another section. That's fine with me. Now, which chapter is that in?
Chapter 2.
And use and zoning.
Okay. Awesome, Tom.
Thank you. And what's the other document? Expectations or
Implementation.
ownership of the thing? Yeah,
Plan.
that went fine too. So definitely Shop C will take
you
the lead
got-
on housing.
Okay, do you have a version that Shop C updated? Because the
They
one
didn't
you-
update it. They just, maybe I edited it. It was those two documents I sent you.
Yeah. It's got, here we go, 1 minute. Try this one.
Yep.
No, it's not that version. Hang on. Different one.
I don't think there was much, I don't think there's any edits in it. It was more of,
No, but what's not in it is the estimated timeframes and funding.
oh,
Hang on a minute. Yeah. So it's Shop C where we said Shop C, but we need the funding and the timeline.
all right.
Sorry. I mean, let me just make a general comment on this.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, I wasn't in this morning's meeting.
No, yeah. So, I mean, we don't have everyone's implementation plans back. If we want to include this level of detail in the version that's going to be out, posted and made available to the public before the May 4th meeting, we got to get this back this week, because otherwise we just can't turn it around quickly enough. So what I've said to people is this is a best attempt at what we think the timeline and the funding is. It's not set in stone. This implementation plan becomes a working document that will be kind of managed and maintained as we go along. So, you know, and we could, I personally would prefer to get it all in, at least as a first estimate, and then we can come back to it before we finally go to print with the document. But we've got to get something by the end of this next week. Otherwise, I just can't turn it around quickly enough.
Mhm.
So,
Got it.
Judith, I'd comment that I actually looked through the implementation stuff that you'd sent out, and I think there are some things that need to be updated. For example, there's a lot of stuff for the Public Works Planning Board that I think actually belongs with the Select Board. And I think some of the Public Works Planning Board responsibilities are also in the transportation circulation area, should be there as well. So I'm going to make a pass at that and make some suggestions on that, because I think that,
sure. That,
there are
and
things that-
and that's absolutely what we're looking for. I mean, Mimi's made a number of suggested changes that were originally in there as a planning board, and
Yep.
she's suggesting it's somebody else. So that's
I
that
gave them to the select board.
exactly. Yeah.
Good.
The
Okay.
responsibilities was just really
Thanks,
my
Mimi.
first
Yeah.
effort.
We need lots more for the select board. Our meetings are too short, so we need more to do.
Oh, Sam,
Well,
don't
like
get me
they-
going.
Well, like the sidewalk planning stuff, I gave it to either DPW.
Yeah.
Or,
That ought to be Public Works Planning Board, I think.
Yeah.
oh, should it?
Yeah, I think.
Well,
so.
that's actually what there were a lot of things I wasn't sure, like select board, DPW, or Public Works Planning Board.
Or it could be
We
multiple.
go through. So I've got a version of the document that's got Mimi's suggestions on it. We can go through that. The important thing to remember about the responsibility is it's the group in the town that's responsible for making sure it happens. They don't necessarily have to be doing it themselves.
Right.
So
And for example, we had a Public Works Planning Board down for revenue generation kind of stuff, tax base, increased tax base. And again, that to me is select board. And the Public Works Planning Board is infrastructure kinds of things like sidewalks and transportation stuff and so forth. And so I think, again, just moving some of the labels around, I think will be fairly straightforward.
okay. So do you want to have a go at that one, Tom?
Mhm.
Think yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Mimi. What's next?
So do we have any other chapters, Sam? Nothing for public services?
Nothing new for me, sorry.
Okay, and any other edits from any other chapters?
The only other chapter that is new is, and apologies, I didn't get it out in time to people, but where did I put this one? Hang on a minute, bear with me.
Is the shared drive updated now with all the latest versions of chapters? I was looking for that earlier today and I couldn't actually find all of that.
It's they're in the meeting prep for today.
Okay. I'm still having trouble navigating the shared drive.
Let me get everything in a because we're getting to the point where it's probably easy just to have another file on the top level.
The
Let me do
current
that.
version of everything.
Yeah, let me do that today, tomorrow.
Judith, while you're bringing that up, I wanted to just thank you for your note. That was very comprehensive. In response to my questions about some of the like climate and sustainability stuff that I was asking about. Is this a good time? Can I talk about that or
Oh, yeah.
will we get to that? As a little test, I had someone talking to me about documents for the master plan, and they came in to me and they asked me where the climate action plan was, and that they just mentioned that they had a very difficult time finding it.
Finding it in this
And
document.
I think, one of my suggestions was maybe, sorry, I thought I lost you guys for a second. One of my suggestions was, whether we can write a paragraph maybe to just point to where some of the information can be found. So I took a look through the implementation and just highlighted in green, like all of the things that I thought were sort of green goals and recommendations, and they really are sprinkled around. But in my mind, it's a little bit difficult and not in one area unless we direct people to where they can find the pieces. So I wanted to see what people thought about that.
I mean, you could make that suggestion in a variety of areas in terms of particular interest areas, for example, that are sprinkled around. Maybe there's an index kind of thing or something that we could put together. Say, if you're interested in, I don't know, housing, here are all the places it is, transportation, here's the place it is, green
Very helpful.
initiatives, etc. Some of those are bunched together logically already, but some are not.
So in my mind, the climate and resiliency seems to be like an overarching goal throughout the whole plan, and it seems to come through on many different chapters. And climate change isn't a specific chapter in the master plan, although we do have a section on resiliency in there. So I don't know how to address that.
I was thinking like a paragraph, Mimi, just to say, what is Southborough doing? What are, maybe, where you're going to find some of this information, but there are a lot of people, remember it came up pretty high on the list, and important and very important, and interested to know what is Southborough doing for climate action. And and there are some goals, right? In the land use, there are some goals. And my thinking is, and where I'm coming from is I used to be a member of the Recycling and Green Technology Committee, and that kind of folded into Public Works Planning Board, and but the work that group was doing towards the recycling and also the green technology, we were working with the schools. That's it's hard to find. And maybe there's various people around Southborough that are doing it, but it would be, for example, one of the goals I think is to reestablish the recycling committee. I might suggest that maybe that, would expand a little bit, at least to cover green technology like it used to, but to me, it's just difficult to find. It's much easier to find in Sam's chapter, the resiliency and adaptation stuff. But in terms of prevention, I think that's a little bit more tangible to people, and they want to know, what are we doing? And I think that's kind of hard to find, unless maybe it's put into one paragraph somewhere.
Maybe a paragraph in the resiliency thing says, here are other places where we have activities, implementation, recommendations, et cetera, related to this topic.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Because that's one of the things that I think if we're going to signpost like that, I think we have to probably do it in two places. So we can certainly add a reference in the resiliency to the natural resources section. And then I think, Debbie, you were suggesting just maybe putting a paragraph in the natural resources section, which is chapter 5, just to kind of summarize it and say, if you want to find all the, more detail, you can refer to the resiliency, because it's really it's the MVP and the hazard mitigation work that really brings all that together. And climate change is part of what was an input into that, into that process.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I think,
I think that would be good.
Post it into areas. Do you want to have a go at that paragraph, Debbie? Because it sounds like if you've done the work to find the green items, that's probably a good kind of way of bubbling that up.
Yeah, sure. No, I'd really like to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think naturally people are going to go in open space to look for that. So I think we had the same trouble with when we were talking about, I think, trees. We were saying, well, is it in open space or is it in land use? And I think we have a little bit of, it's mainly in land use, right? Is that where it ended up, but we put something over in open space? So I think that, that would be a paragraph that I'd be happy to write.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
And just to follow up, Judith, just thank you for all the detail. It was a lot of detail and I didn't know it. So that was great.
No, it's it's a reflection of the fact that we've been at this for a while. And when and Debbie is right, climate change and that topic was ranked pretty, highly within the vision survey, but that vision survey was done at just about the same time as the MVP work was starting to happen. So, in some ways it's good to be able to, reflect that as well. And that might be something we want to say is, it was a very, important topic that was raised during the vision survey, and, the MVP work, the LHMP work kind of was happening at the same time. So
Yeah, and that would be great to mention those and where people can find these documents. And the other thing I wanted to ask about is, I think I might have put that in my note to you, Judith, is about the goals. And I was thinking, the state has goals, and I don't know whether for reduction in greenhouse gas emission goals. I think I see a lot of other towns are using the state goals, which was a reduction of 25% by 2020, and then a reduction of 80% by 2050. And so I was wondering whether we can at least, mention that, what the work is going on and what we're working towards. And also for this committee, I'm curious to know which committee then is going to be, taking this on, because there are some goals, but it's really kind of climate action committee type stuff that other towns have that we don't. So would that be the recycling committee kind of rebranded? I think that's nice, but I didn't know what the committee was thinking about.
I don't think of that as recycling. I guess I'm cautious about that one, Debbie, because I think that's a wonderful goal, but I don't have any clear picture of what activities are involved, what the cost is, for example. And I don't think that we're likely to have the resources to invest a huge amount in that going forward, at least given the near-term budget expectations. So, I think concept is good, but I think you got to be careful about the implications of that. And again, I think you got to find a committee or group that is dedicated to making that happen and has resources and capabilities to do that, which it's not obvious to me who's the point for that particular one. So I
Yeah.
have a better
the
idea
goal
of how it's
we
going
have
to
in
happen.
there, the
as
goal
opposed
that
to-
we have in there is to reduce the use of coal and oil-based fossil fuels by 25% by 2031. And John Parent has accepted that as a goal that he will be responsible for, a recommendation that he will be responsible for, because
and I
he's
think-
already.
I think that's the kind of connection that you have to have for these things, because again,
Yeah.
John is in a position to know that and presumably has a plan in his mind about how that's going to happen. And I think that's a good thing to do. But
Yeah,
beyond that, I'm troubled, I guess, in terms of how
Yeah.
you sort of put the flesh around it.
yeah.
not
Because
just
that
have
was
a-
we originally came up with 50%, and I talked to John about it, and he said he felt that was too aggressive because they've already done so much to reduce that sort of, fossil fuel usage already.
Yeah,
And I have included, well, maybe I didn't get around to
Where did
putting.
that end up, Judith? That language, because that would be great to put in this paragraph about what we've done already.
it's one of the
Um,
implementation steps. in
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, where did I put it? It's somewhere. Let me dig that chapter out. Maybe I didn't actually. Maybe I didn't actually finally update that.
Yep.
I know I
Yeah,
was
we do
waiting.
have a bunch of electric vehicle
Okay.
kind of objectives, implementation steps in here, which is good.
Yeah, and yeah. I will. Sorry, Debbie. I will.
No, that's
definitely-
okay. But Sam, to your point about the point person, there's like funding and grant money and things like that. And like, it's not clear, I don't think, as to which groups, for example, can Conservation Commission write a grant? Can advisory write a grant? Can DPW write a grant? Who
okay.
writes, who does all that? Like, how does somebody find that out? Maybe that's outside of the master plan.
I talked to Melissa Danza about this because if you look at the master plan scope, climate change and resiliency is not actually included in the master plan because there's a whole separate set of state opportunities and requirements and funding that
Yeah.
we tapped into to do the MVP and the LHMP. So it's actually run as a kind of a I would see it as a parallel track. Now, we said we definitely wanted it in here because we felt it was important to have that holistic view of the town. But things like getting grants and funding for projects like that can all comes through the MVP. There's an MVP core team that Neil Espisi and Melissa Danza run. So that the MVP documentation and the LHMP, the local hazard mitigation plan, has got a huge amount of detail of the work that they did. And a lot of it was done by PAR Consulting. And there's, references to the processes that people can follow to kind of initiate projects.
Great.
Yeah. And I think we will have hyperlinks in this report to that. It's just I'll talk about our hyperlinking challenge a bit later on, but.
Debbie, you do raise an interesting question, and I don't know if Lisa agrees with me or not, but my impression is that we need to do a better job of coordinating grant activities, applications, funding, et cetera, because I frequently run across grants that people go after and get, and they're not bad things to do, certainly, but my sense is that we haven't been as coordinated as we might be in terms of making sure that everybody's sort of moving in the same direction and leveraging resources collectively, as opposed to everybody just going out and finding money that they can find. I mean, the classic case I like is our hovercraft that we went out and acquired from somebody a number of years ago, the public safety guys. Turned out it was a maintenance nightmare, and we finally had trouble giving it away. But
And it almost killed our town administrator, didn't it?
I don't remember that one, but
Didn't Janice Conlon fall out of it or something?
I don't know. I didn't hear that, but but anyway, the point being that Judith, you raise a good point, in that there's a lot of money out there for many important initiatives, and I think we could actually be more effective in terms of managing more centrally these things, which clearly is an administrative challenge. But I'd feel better if I felt that everybody was sort of pulling in the same direction toward a specific set of goals.
Yeah.
And I think we generally do okay, but some better coordination mechanism, and maybe that's another item for the master plan, is to have some implementation step in here somewhere that says we need to have more focus on coordinating grants and projects across the entire range of town entities. I don't know.
I agree, Sam, 100%.
No more hovercraft.
Well, that sounds like one for you, Sam, to put into public services.
Yeah, it could go several places, but I'll think about that for public facilities and services.
I'll make a note as well, though, because it kind of links into what we're doing on implementation.
Good.
Okay, so I will just quickly show you what I've got here, and then I'll post it into into the shared folder. So this is just a narrative on implementation, and it was interesting when I went back to the 2008 plan to look at what was said around implementation there, and it was almost like we've actually gone one step further than the 2008 master plan process by actually saying, here's the recommendations set, here's the groups that are responsible, here's the estimated timing and the potential funding. So some of that was in the 2008 master plan, but a lot of the narrative around it was very much, this is how we would suggest that Southborough implements its master plan. So the big change this time is we are saying this is how we're going to implement the master plan. So I think, we've gone that step further to be able to actually do that. So, or what I did here is just do some narrative around the implementation plan, what was in the implementation plan, how we put it together. There's a little paragraph here on the master plan implementation group that we talked about, if not the last meeting, a couple of meetings ago. This is so the proposal and the planning board have accepted it in principle. They'll accept it hopefully formally when Mimi and I go to see them on the 6th of June or whatever the date is. So it's good. The intent is to have a small group, probably 5 people, who will meet quarterly and provide updates to the planning board basically on how things are going. So rather than the planning board having to meet with every individual board and committee, that this kind of MPIG group.
Can we find a better term?
No, it's going to be called
M-
MPIG.
I'm an MPIG.
We have a little
T-shirts.
a little picture. Yeah, we're gonna have little piggies on our t-shirts.
Too much of a male chauvinist pig overtone there.
Anyway, so and the idea would be that one of the 5 people from the MPIG would meet with each board and commission, but only once every 6 months. But the idea would be, and that's what my note there, I need to find some better wording. It would be like a rolling 6 months, so that every quarter we'd have enough information from a subset of the boards and committees to go to the planning board and say, hey, this is going. So it's not, oh my gosh, every January and June, we have to have this massive kind of, review process. It'll be kind of gradual over time. So there's a little bit in that. And then I've just included the legends from the plan. And then this is just the plan. And all of this is, the stuff that we're asking people to complete right now. So significantly more detailed than we had in 2008. So I think that this is going to be like what brings it all together for people, hopefully.
And Judith, I haven't actually read this recently, but is there language in here that reinforces that the next steps, particularly the cost elements in here, are intended solely as a starting point? That,
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to be able to generate, particularly accurate estimates of this kind of thing. And
Yeah.
maybe we even come back to a, small, medium, large kind of scale. This is a big project. This is, small, under, $100,000, between 100 and a million plus, or some broad range numbers. So you can sort of get a sense of scale without getting wrapped up in particular numbers. That might be a useful way to represent the cost numbers here.
Do we have costs on these?
Thought.
No. So I guess I would see this plan as the kind of as the bridge to really detailed action planning. So this is just giving people a sense of who's going to be responsible for making sure it happens. What's the estimated time frame? Short term, medium, long term. And those can definitely be, I would expect those to be updated and flexed as people start to work on things. And then the funding source is really to try and get a sense of, is this something that we're going to have to fund within the town? Are there grants that we can use? Is it federal money? Is it, government money, like federal government money? So that's the kind of bridge that then each group, I think, has to then be working on their own detailed action plan that would include, okay, how much is it actually going to cost? Because there'll be some projects here, when you look at the cost and you look at the return on that cost, that could well be, well, we're not going to do it. It's just not going to be worth it. But I think we're not in a position, to Mimi's point, at this time, to say what those costs are, small, medium, and large, unless people have already started working on them.
Okay.
So I'm sure Kat could tell you a kind of a cost range for her dog poop signs, but that's because they've started. Sorry, because that's because they've started working on it.
Yeah. I thought at one point we'd talked about some sort of a high-level cost estimate for these,
but I don't know where we get that from.
yeah. And clearly we don't have detailed information, but again, and you're right. I mean, it's a challenge to get all that stuff, but I'd certainly be interested in seeing, how much of these things are, again, small, medium, and large kind of numbers, but maybe we're better off not making those estimates and getting criticized for being off the mark for them, which is probably likely. So,
But let's take an example. I mean, create the community gathering spaces, LU 1.3, build a multi-use community center, create community green space.
yeah, community center is large. Community gathering spaces varies from, tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of numbers, depending on where, how much, how big, et cetera. But maybe it's premature to do that here.
That would be my thought. That would be my thought. I mean, what we're hearing from people, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is a concern over, well, we haven't got any budget anyway, so how can we do these things? And for me, the whole point is that's one of the primary purposes of the master plan, is to say this is what, the people who have been, working on this for 2-3 years and consulting with their boards and commissions, this is what is important, right? This is what we're saying we want to be doing. There's then, okay, how are we going to do it? Where are we going to get the money from? And that has to be the next phase of iteration, to say, maybe there is more money that needs to come from the town. Maybe there are grants, maybe there's federal funding. But I think it has to be, that's what you build into the next phase of the master plan. This is a statement of intent. It's not a statement of commitment to actually doing it all. And there will be stuff that we say, you know what, it's just not going to get done this time around. Come back in 10 years' time.
Yep.
Judith, are you saying at this stage that we should be trying to establish priorities? In other words, approaching it from a desirability point of view as opposed to a financial point of view? Is that what we're talking about here?
Sounds
Yeah,
like it.
I mean that's partly why I think we suggested using the estimated time frame, because if you've got something that's a long-term project, you might start working on it at a high level, but it's not going to be a priority to do like in the next couple of years. So if you've got projects in here that are short-term projects, say 1 to 2 years, de facto, those are the ones that become the priority to actually work on and get funding for.
And that's really,
Even if they're long-term projects, if they're important, one starts on them.
Yeah.
As opposed to something that is, let's say, more less expensive, but is certainly less important to the community.
and the responsible groups, I guess, are the ones who are on the hook for prioritization and funding and management and implementation out there. So it probably ought to be up to them.
Yeah, Sam, I'm not sure about funding, but certainly they're establishing the priorities makes good sense.
Yeah.
Because back to your point, if everyone establishes fundings, for example, or desirability to go get funding, then in fact we're back to this free-for-all on funding acquisition that you were talking about a while ago.
Mm-hmm. So it'd be good to have a traffic cop for that kind of thing to coordinate things. But again,
well, what is the select board's position on this? What role do they play with respect to funding?
I defer to the chair.
Of course.
Okay.
She controls the purse strings.
Oh, no comment.
I mean, clearly there's a coordination role there, but again, there are some independent boards around that have some autonomy in this process, and I think you got to talk to other people and try to coordinate that process. So there's no, one person leading the parade in all circumstances. I think you just work together and try to get these things done.
Well, but I raised, let me give you this example. I mean, we did a self-assessment with respect to ADA compliance for the city. We came up with a boatload of things which have to be done, and we supplied some rough estimates with respect to costs associated with that. Now, it seems to me that the Board of Selectmen or the Select Board are participating in helping prioritize the expenditures on those.
Right.
At least that's the general impression that I've received. Is that the model you're talking about going forward here?
Well, I think that's a key component, certainly. And I think, again, through the budget process, the select board coordinates that. And again, other groups like the planning board and others have budget that they're responsible for proposing, supporting, and getting approved. Library is another independent group that has important things they're working on. So again, it's several key players there to help set priorities and allocate funds to make these things happen. That's an important coordination point, certainly.
Right. So I'm wondering if that is something that we should be referring to with respect to implementation within this particular plan. In other words, an expectation that we should try to set up in this particular plan.
Talk about mechanism for allocating resources around this, maybe somewhere.
Yeah, something like that. Not necessarily the priorities, which I think you're correct, Judith, that individual organization or individual committees can very well establish the priorities because they're much closer to the problem, so to speak, or problems. How they go out and get money, many of these people don't have massive budgets to do it, but having someone assist in putting together, let's say, a plan to go out and acquire those resources makes some sense. I must say that when it came to doing the ADA self-assessment study, that Mr. Purple was very instrumental, and his organization very instrumental in going out and getting those kinds of resources. I view him kind of as an extension of the select board, so to speak, and making that sort of thing happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I think the government structure is such that clearly, a lot of important stuff happens through volunteer committee groups. And I think that each committee has the ability and responsibility to make the case for things in their particular area, their responsibilities on these implementation things, their high priority items, to again, find support for the budget process and other participants in these processes, and do what they can to make sure that these things happen. And again, not a perfect process, but hopefully everybody works together in that and makes some progress on them.
Well, I agree, Sam. But let's say you're on a committee and you've identified a high priority source. You recognize that you need a couple of $100,000 to make it happen. What do? Make an appointment in front of the select board to help to acquire a consensus and secure the money? I mean, how do they go about making that sort of thing happen?
That happens today, yeah, through making a pitch to the select board, the advisory committee, finding grant money, and communicating with others who have similar interests to build consensus for it.
Warren
And
article at town meeting.
And right, and include capital in that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, discussions with capital.
Isn't it- Sorry, maybe I haven't quite followed this, but isn't what we're talking about here are projects and initiatives and opportunities that we're saying are fundamental to the shape of the town in the next 10 years. So I don't know what, other than kind of operational expenses, which obviously have to be budgeted for and allocated, aren't these the projects that would be flagged during the normal budget cycle to say, well, these are the things we want to be doing. Isn't this what the financial structure of the town is kind of in place to deal with? Or are we saying that we don't think the boards and commissions actually understand how that process works?
No, they do.
They do, but I think part of with the plan bill was, I think it was a lot of money all at once. And I don't think we've really, figured out exactly what the path is, whether it's to phase. We had an initial discussion, but I think there's many discussions that after town meeting, we have to try to figure out what our path is going to be. What our long-term goal is to get all of these things taken care of. We had initial discussions. I know, Sam, I think it was you that said with the bonding so low, maybe we just do this and take care of it and, bring everything up to where it should be. So,
Is this ADA that we're talking about?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the study. So, I mean, is that what you're looking for, Bill? Is trying to figure out what the path that we could utilize in here regarding what the report showed as far as the deficiencies from the ADA side?
I'm not as, I mean, I understand, I brought the ADA issue up simply because I'm familiar with it. I think there are every board and committee in town that we're going to charge to make things happen are going to have to do two things. They're going to have to establish priorities, which I think my impression is they'll be able to do that quite effectively. The thing that I think will be less effective at trying to accomplish is how do you get some of this done? Some of it may be volunteer work and cost nothing or just sweat labor for the committee itself. But in others, there may be a financial expenditure which has to be made.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in fact, what we have is a bunch of committees that are going to come together with budget requests. Those budget requests, however they express themselves, are going to have to be prioritized. Now the question becomes, how do you prioritize that sort of thing?
But I think that's beyond what we're doing here.
Yes, as long as when you specify that an individual committee is going to be responsible for something, that this is more than a suggestion and it's less than an implementation. I see a lot of puzzled faces.
Yeah, because there are many, many ways to fund things. There is grants. It depends on
Yeah.
what the project is. If it would, if CPA funding would fund it, there's budgetary.
Yes.
There are a million different ways, and I don't think we're going to figure out for every goal tonight how it's going to be funded. That's not.
No, but that's not what I'm suggesting. Is that there's not that we look at an individual goal as to how it's to be funded, because we don't even know what the prioritization of that goal would be. But the question I had is, how does one go about in a consistent way throughout the town? How do you guide individual committees through the process of acquiring monies to make their prioritized items happen?
That's the budget
How-
I mean, it
process.
just goes back to the
Saying,
individual
though,
committees.
Isn't it the current processes for operational budgeting and capital plan budgeting and whatever the Public Works Board does? Because if we hadn't come together and worked on this master plan and come up with 150 recommendations, the boards and commissions would surely be coming up with lots of things they would like to do, and they'd be having to get money for it. Isn't it just that we're putting a great packaging around it and saying this is the long-term plan for the town?
And Bill, it's what you
You know,
did.
one of the things that we talked about in the early days when we said, well, why wasn't the 2008 plan as why didn't we deliver everything? And some of it was related to the fact that, it wasn't front and center of every board and commission's kind of world. And that's something we spend a lot of time engaging, all of us have engaged with our committees and boards, and we're going through this whole process again to say, well, okay, this is what you said you wanted to do. Are you sure you still want to do it? And if so, where do you think you're going to get the money from? So if
Right.
people,
I 100% agree with you, Judith. That's exactly what we've tried to do. And I hope it's going to be an effective approach. It's just that I would hate to see the individual committees have to fight for funds from that are potentially going to be committed to other committees to make things happen.
Mhm.
I've already seen that happen with respect to some of the stuff we're trying to do on the ADA resolution issues. That suddenly monies that people thought were going to be spent one place are going to have to be spent yet another place.
But Bill, you're exactly right, but it's a zero-sum game, unfortunately, and that there's
Absolutely
enough money in
right.
the pot.
So the question is, who referees the zero-sum game?
The budget process, and basically the select board is a key player in that process. Advisory committee, capital planning committee, all those checks and balances in the process. And I think the committees are generally pretty effective in going through that process, making their case, answering questions, and making the pitch. But ultimately, again, the select board is a key driver of that process for municipal resources, and the schools sort of manage their own piece somewhat independently there. So, but there's no easy answer, Bill, in the sense that everybody's sort of in the same position, and there are some that are more effective than others in making those pitches and getting support for their programs. And I don't think we're ever going to reach a world where it's everybody's on a perfectly level playing field and everybody gets the share of the pie they want, because the pie is not big enough for that, I think.
but hopefully if it comes to the select board and there's an initiative over here on the one hand that's in the master plan and has been approved as part of the master plan process, and there's another initiative suddenly appears from left field that's come out of nowhere and isn't in the master plan, I would hope that the select board would go, well, we should really be focusing on what, the combined, members of the master plan and their boards and commissions have said are the most important things that we should be doing.
Mhm.
I agree, Judith, that sometime unfortunately things come up that aren't on the master plan between now and the next 8 years that,
Yeah. Oh, sure.
know.
Yeah. But hopefully if it's, oh, well, we never really thought about putting that in the master plan, but we still like to do it, and it's not, viewed as mission critical, then
right,
it's the master plan projects that will be prioritized and funded.
don't disagree.
Okay.
I hope I didn't derail this. Sorry.
No, it's good conversation, Bill. It's good conversation.
I'm just concerned for you, Judith, if in fact you're going to go meet with your individual committees, they're going to give you a progress report, so to speak. You're going to be running into a situation where where they have a high priority item that they would like to accomplish, but can't because of funding. And you're going to have to go back to the select board and say, guess what? Nothing's been done.
Well, we go to the planning board because it's the planning board's plan, and the select board.
Oh, well, planning board, whoever. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, well,
Ever.
but that's but
Who is that? What's that board? I don't know. I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, those guys. I'm with you. Sorry.
well, they used to tell me that I had a skin like a rhino, so it's probably still quite scaly.
Okay.
And Bill, I apologize. I don't think I understood your question fully initially. So I kind of gave an answer that didn't really answer your question. So
No, I'm
as
used
the
to that. Don't
discussion
worry.
went on, I understood exactly what you were asking. So again, I derailed it a little bit myself. So
Okay. So Mimi, should we talk about the updates from people so far
Yeah.
on the implementation plan? What should we do first? Let's have a look. Let us do. let's do this. Okay, so there's two different documents I've got. This first one is feedback from the EDC, from the EPC, Neela Spacey, and the planning board. So I will just go through and kind of summarize and raise anything that I think we need to make sure that we're agreeing upon. Can everyone see this? Is that all right, everyone? Glasses on. Yeah, so this is, I'll just go through and summarize, and then if anyone has a major problem, kind of call out. So this is where, so this is land use and zoning, and if you remember, land use and zoning goals, well, recommendations are actually already in the other chapters. It's just that we pulled it together to really highlight land use and zoning dependencies and requirements. So this was one where we'd originally said that the planning board would be responsible for strategies. That was probably my bad. But it's Shopsy is responsible for the overall strategies, and then Mimi has put down timelines and funding sources from for the individual kind of zoning changes. There's a change here to that Julie suggested around sustainability of local businesses, that overall goal is a responsibility of the EDC and not the planning board. Mimi's agreed with that. There's a couple of little changes that I made just to align this one around the zoning code for Route 9, that better reflects the wording that's in the EDC in chapter 4 for the EDC. And then Mimi suggested a change at the bottom that it should be the DPW that's creating and implementing the native tree planting program with funding from the tree fund.
Well, that would be, so the tree warden actually, but that's under the DPW.
The tree warden. I wanted that job. Okay.
It may be available.
No, I can't do that. Okay.
So quick question, if the bylaw doesn't pass, there's just, you'd have to find funding elsewhere. Is that the idea? Tree funding being used for tree planting.
Yeah, so the bylaw refers to tree planting, so we just have to do it and find funding yes.
Okay, let's see what else we have in here. Okay, this is the updates from the EDC. I think we'll probably end up taking off the time frame and the funding source from these high-level goals, because the recommendations roll up to the goal, and so it's, you know, they'll all be kind of long-term, so we'll probably just make that amendment.
That makes sense.
So this is from Julie, everything, they've got, this has been agreed with the EDC. They have timelines, they have funding sources. I don't think there was anything in here.
Judith, I had one question on ED 1.1, define and document the changes to the zoning and use regulations. Does that include the updating the like GIS and the maps? Is that, because that's not yet done. I'm not sure exactly what that referred to, but it says that it's complete for downtown district. But I think that we, last I heard, we haven't yet updated GIS or the zoning map with that new downtown district.
You are right.
Yeah.
Remind me what we're waiting for on that one, Mimi?
It's a big project.
Finding money to pay for it, yeah.
Do we want to make that?
Can we use ARPA for that, Mimi?
In theory, you could.
I mean, there's been a little confusion over, what's the zoning map and is it up to date? And I don't know how old ours is, but it would be really good to have it up to date.
Yeah, I don't think there's confusion, Debbie. It's not up to date.
Oh.
But anybody-
Yeah,
anybody-
that's no
Nobody thinks
confusion.
it is up to date, but
I think it's 2006 or something.
it's not
Oh.
hugely out of date in the sense that not, a zillion things haven't happened since, but clearly the downtown district, and there are a few pieces here and there that need to be updated.
Yeah, zoning wise, there are streets and stuff that need to be
Yeah,
added in.
Okay. And where would the funding for that come from, Mimi?
grant, ARPA, town budget.
Oh, why isn't that, that's updating maps? Why isn't that town? Like, just, that's what we have to do as a town. The town employees do that, no?
No, it's not a town employee thing. It's
Engineering project, basically,
yeah.
kind of thing, yeah. Computer map kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't
Does
know.
anyone know if there's an ARPA request?
yes, I know, and no, there isn't.
Ooh, see, you're right back to that issue that we were discussing just a few minutes ago.
But there's an opportunity too, if grants don't even pan out. I mean, we're potentially looking at a fall town meeting as well. There could be, planning board could put forth an article once they get a cost on that as well for potentially a fall town
But as
meeting.
EDC is going to drive that, right?
No,
They shouldn't,
Planning
not
board should
that
do
piece of it.
Yeah,
Not that
planning
piece,
board
Okay.
no.
All right.
All right, let me work out how to do the wording on that. We might have to put that one into the.
yeah,
land
that
use-
may need to be a
Right.
separate
Yeah.
recommendation.
Okay. Good point there, Debbie. Thank you. Okay, so here's some of the ones where Mimi has said it's not the planning board.
Oh, all the sidewalk stuff.
Sidewalks.
I think that is Public Works Planning Board for sidewalks.
Is it Public Works Planning Board?
I think it should be.
When is that?
So for
I agree, Sam.
planning, but
What do I
but
know?
repairing and installing would be DPW, right?
Correct, construction or a contract.
Well, so it would be out of the
Supervisor.
DPW though, if it's a contract. So
But
the
with
pla-
initial responsibility for defining and planning would come from the
Public
public
Works.
Planning Board.
But maybe have the DPW in there as well. I mean, I don't think it's a problem to have.
No, we're doing
multiple.
one person.
One person's responsible for making sure it happens.
Only one?
But
Okay.
isn't this wouldn't this come out of Karen's complete? No, Karen's
Complete street stuff relates to it certainly, but that's not a town-wide sidewalk.
I really think this should be Public Works Planning Board.
I will make
I
that.
agree with you, Sam.
Okay.
But ultimately, you would
in-
advise the DPW
Right,
and yeah,
Yeah.
Increasing parking in Fayetteville District. DPW.
I mean, again, to me.
Yeah, so that's
a-
just kind of realigning the reconfiguring the parking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is more operational kind of stuff, less Public Works Planning Board than DPW.
So DPW,
How to Do it.
Okay. And then connecting the rail station to the office and commercial areas. DPW.
I think that's Public Works Planning Board, is putting the plan together for it at least, figuring out what we're gonna do and coordinating implementation stuff. I mean, Lisa, do you disagree? with-
I agree, Sam, on part of it, but like shuttle bus services, EDC is talking about working on something from the train station for that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a dual. I know you don't want to really do duals, but as far as a shuttle bus service, I agree, Sam, the sidewalks and cycle lanes definitely, I think, fall under Public Works Planning Board.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is a
I-
good example, though. If we say that the Public Works Planning Board is responsible overall for this recommendation, you know, what I would expect them to be doing is saying, okay, well, we've got our plans over here for this. And we know that the EDC is working on the shuttle bus services, so please go and talk to them about what they're doing. And
Okay.
then that's the sort of thing that the MP kind of team could help facilitate across those groups.
Sam could certainly delegate from the Public Works Planning Board where people should go. I think you got that covered, Mr. Stivers.
Or EDC could run it and Public Works Planning Board coordinate. It could go either way, but I think you're
Yeah.
right. It needs to be one person, so.
Yep.
Sadly, Lisa, I've been unable to get the Public Works Planning Board to do anything, so. that's-
Hopefully, Sam, that's going to change.
Hopefully it is. That's
I agree.
been a low probability.
Okay. So there was a question here from Mimi on increasing the use intensity for currently underutilized property parcels. I must admit, I have no idea what that means, but sounds good though, doesn't it? Shall I go back to Julie with that one?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's like rezoning under you. I don't understand what.
I think it's a
that means.
variety of things. Yeah,
Mixed
Le-
use, maybe?
But I think, Lisa, that's some of the things you'd done in terms of looking at town-owned parcels, for example, is one element of that. Another is other parcels in town that could, that are not particularly being at their highest and best use at this point. There's, you know, look, the Capasso property, for example, is a great case there where wonderful location, high potential, and somebody could put together a project there, I think, that would be a great benefit for a wide variety of people.
Yeah.
But you need to have some drive and planning and whatever. I think the planning board certainly could do something there. EDC might play a role as well. I don't
Yeah.
think of that as the Public Works Planning Board as much, but to me, a town planner could drive that process in some interesting ways. So I think that for me, planning board is a good candidate for that.
All right, Mimi, we're going to delegate to you.
It's there. I just didn't know what it meant. I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was doing.
And EMC property is another one. I mean, they're a classic case.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, it sure seems unlikely that they are going to use that for the historic purposes there as Dell and EDC evolve. So something's going to happen there. And it would be wonderful if we had a plan that could be attractive to them as well as other needs for the town. So
Sam, I've heard sooner rather than later. There's
which makes
chatter.
which makes me even more nervous.
Mhm.
Something is happening. I'd sure love for us to be part of that conversation with some ideas of what we would like to see there. So,
Yep.
Sorry, I'm having to, my laptop's about to die. Sorry, did we say that that's sticking with the planning board or is it?
Yeah, yeah.
I think so.
You know what it is, Neem? You know what you're doing?
Sure.
New Amazon warehouse.
I'm gonna ask Lisa and Sam, do what they tell me.
New Amazon warehouse. Amazon's already close enough in Northborough. I actually ordered something this morning from Amazon and it showed up at 2 o'clock.
Oh, that's so creepy. how that-
Frightening, frightening.
Is Chewy there too? Because my Chewy stuff shows up in like 10 seconds too.
I love Chewy. They're such a great.
They're great. I agree.
Do they do food for husbands that don't cook as well?
They
we
do
talk
through their
about
Whole
that for
Foods
kids?
thing. You can deliver.
Like,
Depends what species you're.
Yeah.
Does he like
when I
dog
say,
food?
what are you having for supper? And he says, I don't know. What am I having? I'm like, I could just say, well, dial up Chewy and it'll get sent to you. You know?
Chewy is for our furry friends.
Okay. Next comment from Julie. Stay connected and actively participate in Route 9 190 highway projects. She's saying, is that too, shouldn't it be the select board or planning board?
Which one is this, Judith? I'm having trouble reading here.
EDE 3.4.
I think this should be select board.
Yep, I think so too.
Why don't we just put Sam on there? Sam, I think this falls right in your wheelhouse. Can we just say Sam in parentheses SB?
I didn't know I had a wheelhouse. I've been looking for one.
There are no names in here deliberately to protect the innocent.
Sam, you know I'm very good at
And
delegating,
Sam
so
too.
Or soon to be guilty.
Okay, so this next one, I must admit, my eyes glazed over. There are TIFs. This is Julie's comments. Within Massachusetts, it's called a District Improvement Financing District.
Oh,
Mm,
it's a way, an overlay district of financing development.
Okay, so that's okay then?
So in other words, if you need to invest in maybe something like a wastewater system or whatever, you can have an overlay district that corresponds to the people who are going to use the service, and then have again, financing mechanism by taxing people differentially in that area to pay for the development process.
So it's a diff, not a TIF. Is that the comment?
Yeah.
Oh,
sort of,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
DIF is for a particular project, or developer. DIF is a district-wide thing, I
Yeah.
think.
so next one is 3.6.
Sidewalks.
Public
Right.
Works Planning Board for consistency purposes. Sam, we can put your name next to that one too.
Well,
Can't give
that's
him
continue
anything.
to develop and improve. Is that still Public Works Planning Board?
I think sidewalk, Sam.
Yeah.
Fall under, yeah.
I think so.
Can't give Sam anything else until he's finished his chapter.
Yeah.
Don't distract me. Yeah. Easily distracted by
Mm,
outside influences.
mm. Okay. Oh, what has happened here? Okay, so that is EDC. Let's see what else we've got in here. Oh, yeah. So this is what we were talking about that Debbie was raising about the natural resources. This is going to be facilities. So we'll make that change. I'll add them to the legend. What else we've got? Oh, look, lots of. No idea what that means. Oh, there's one that Julie missed. Okay, I'll need to go back to on that one. Okay, so this is then resiliency goals, and I've just copied in what Neil Spacey sent us. So he was fine with about half of them, but then he's saying that what his feedback was that it would be the SEMA that would be responsible for some of the other ones. So, and I think most of it made sense on that.
Who's SEMA?
The Southborough Emergency Management
Oh,
Agent.
okay.
Agency.
Yeah. So these are just, we just put a global EPC in there and they all make sense. He's finished, he's updated that. So I think all of that makes sense.
Should, Judith, can you go back to the, sorry, the MTC there on 1.8? Enhanced Technology Information Systems Resiliency. Should that be
Yeah.
MTC or should that be IT? I know MTC plays a role in that, but ultimately that will fall under IT.
Oh, the IT department as opposed to the technology.
what- Sam, what do you think? I mean, ultimately, it'll fall under any funding or anything will fall under J.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of a combination.
yeah, many of these are committees as opposed to, specific departments, although DPW is a department, facilities is a department, so we've got a sort of a mix here. I mean, I think they will work together regardless of who takes the lead on it. I guess, if I had to pick one, I might pick IT
Yeah,
and let them coordinate with MPC on it.
Yep.
Because IT has a bigger budget and more ability to manage resources.
Yep.
To get this stuff done than MTC maybe. So they're closer to the budget process
yes.
than MTC, so maybe that's practical reason to do it.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so that's that one. I will tidy that up and get that out on the shared drive. Let's now do our next one. We only got one more, which is, if I can find it. Okay, so this is pretty much, whoops. Okay, can you see this?
Yep.
The
Yes.
green ones? Okay, so this is
On
all,
the space, yeah.
okay, so this is the feedback from Conservation, Open Space, Preservation Commission and the Trails Committee. So quite a lot of red pen on these. So, but some of them I'll just, so I went through this. Kat has offered up her changes. I've gone through this whole section with Melissa Danza and we've looked at it from a Conservation Commission perspective, and also generally, and you'll see kind of why. And then there's a number of comments and requested changes that have come from Karen and from Freddie on the OSPC. So some of the comments where there's more detailed comments from me, this is primarily relating to OSPC. So the OSPC, Karen and Freddie had said, they're looking for another funding source here, which is a grant writer to apply for grants or a line budget to hire a consultant. So what I did is explain to Karen is that's what putting town down for the town includes. It's like if the OSPC wants money to do their recommendations, they have to get it through the town or they have to look at another funding source. So that was, some of this is just points that I've gone back to Karen and Freddie on. So
Jump right in, Kat.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that I had provided a draft timeline. The Trails Committee couldn't meet last time, we ran out of time. So the committee will meet on Tuesday and finalize anything. I'm almost certain that we'll be in alignment, but I did want to clarify that the committee had not finalized things just yet.
yeah. So there were a couple of comments from Karen that I replied to. The tree planting program. This is already, we talked about that on the other one, so that's gone.
Judith, I just want to let you know, I think the tree canopy protection is also in natural resources. I think it's in two places. I'm not sure which one it's supposed to be in, but I think it's in both. Unless you've taken it out of one of them.
I thought we'd put it in.
Okay, maybe I was looking at an older version. Well, when we get to that section, I'll let you know if it's still there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, so some of this was notes back to Karen and Freddie. Okay, so I'll just go through this, even though Karen can't be with us. I'll just go through and explain what we said here, because there was some confusion, I think, is that the OSPC had suggested an amendment to this one, that they should be responsible for going through or coming up with the listing of town-owned properties, undeveloped properties. And I think there was a misunderstanding here of what this recommendation was actually about. This was specifically about saying if the town owns already developed properties, the idea was, could they be evaluated and prioritized to have their use kind of amended to support the expansion of local businesses in the villages. This wasn't about open space, it was about commercial diversity. So we've kind of gone back on that one. Oh yeah, this was what they wanted to change it to. So again, what we've tried to do is make sure that it's clear what the recommendation relates to the goal above and not just to a kind of a general comment there. Let's see. Okay, this was just changing to go with the, yeah, and this was just a general point that I've put in here. Is worth just saying is that there were a couple of places where people have put ongoing. We can't have ongoing as a timeline, because if it's ongoing, that suggests it's already happening and it's operational. And if it's ongoing, you can't kind of measure it. You can't say, well, we did this and it's finished and it's going to cost us this much. So what I've suggested is that anywhere where it's ongoing, there should be a short-term project that says, well, this is what we're going to be doing, and if it needs funding, you can get it funded. And within the kind of action plan for that recommendation, you would say it's going to be, defined in the next year, and then we expect it to happen every year, so that if the group then wants to get funding every year, they've got that as a kind of a reference point. Some of these are definitely just notes for Karen and Freddie, so I won't go over these. And again, what I've tried to do here is not increase the number of recommendations, particularly in chapter 5, because there's more recommendations in chapter 5 than any other chapter. So we're trying, rather than adding recommendations, what I've done here is edit the text to incorporate the points that OSPC was looking to have included in there, but not add them as another 2 recommendations, because otherwise it just makes the the whole plan very heavy otherwise. These are CAT's
Bills Committee.
Trails Committee, which I think all makes sense. CAT funding and timeline. Okay, so maybe we'll talk about this one, which is where the OSPC is asking that we do separate out and have 2 recommendations. One about trails on open space properties, and one about recreation on I can't talk, I'm busy. Sorry. Husband calls me. I don't know why you can't just walk downstairs and open the door, but
We do that all the time. Same house. Hey, honey.
gonna give me an earful now, I know, but yeah, so Kat, I don't know what you feel about this, but
Yeah, so I think what I understand is that open space wants to make sure that they have a recommendation or a line item here so they can continue to sponsor nature walks, garden tours, etc. The Trails Committee, this initial recommendation was increase awareness about passive recreation opportunities on trails, period. And the Trails Committee, would like to also have a line item that we host guided nature walks, educational programming, special events and partnerships, specifically because we have hosted 11 guided hikes, including the 2 upcoming, since 2017. So we have a history of, doing that with the town. And I think it's really, it's written into our charge. It's written into our bylaw. And this is, it's important to have it here also for the purpose of funding. So when we go after grants, saying that, this has been written into our master plan, it's been demonstrated as a need by the town, is very powerful to have. So I think it benefits both groups to call it out in this way. So that's what we're proposing.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Again, I'm waiting for Karen to come back to me on some of this, but when I looked at this, it just felt as though 2.6 was basically replicating 2.4. So maybe there's a way that we can add the point about recreation opportunities into this one on 2.6, but I'll talk to Karen about that.
Yeah,
'Cause-
that was going to be my question. It looks like the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would be a good way to distinguish between the two, which is what I think was a desire.
Okay. Oops. Okay, there's another one on SP from STC 2.7. And then I guess this was the one that did cause some shouting with capitals.
So
Right.
I've proposed
that one.
text. I've proposed text at the bottom. So I understand that there's a so the Trails Committee is responsible for, this is also language from our charge, assess and add signage to educate trail users about the permitted use on trails under STC jurisdiction. The STC jurisdiction may be what is satisfactory to the issue of certain committees and committees and commissions oversee other properties. So the concern is the Trails Committee doesn't get to put signage up on someone else's trails when it's not under their jurisdiction, right? So this proposed language, I'm thinking, is helpful. It's important, I think, for the Trails Committee to have the option to put permitted uses related to dog walking restrictions, because that's in our licensing agreement with DCR and MWA. So that kind of follows the same theme that we had originally set out to as it was written. And I think the additional under STC jurisdiction I would hope that satisfies the concern that was raised.
So which just, is it easy to say which trails STC has jurisdiction over? Just for my, knowledge, personal.
Yeah, so I don't know how to describe it other than it's the Sudbury Reservoir Trails, the Burrs Loop. It's the part of, Bay Circuit Trail we work with. There's 9/11, there's town-owned land in the off of Route 85 next to Solf's land, that type of stuff. So I don't know how, I guess is there a list somewhere? I don't think there is.
Okay.
Other than our agreements that kind of outline that. And then some of the land is just town-owned and it's not. and then there's future land, right? So any future acquisitions, would trails have an opportunity to, you know, to work on those? So, yeah, I don't know.
Okay,
Does
so
that
this
answer your question?
explicitly, so this therefore excludes Breakneck Hill.
Right, so Breakneck Hill and Town Forest are
Oh.
under stewardship. And that was,
Stewardship.
right, that's a concern that they don't want trails saying anything about those two properties, which that's fine with us. We're not trying to say anything about those properties, but they also don't want it written that trails promotes dog walking on those properties either. So by stating it, including dog walking restrictions, that's not promotion. That's just because it is under our purview to ensure people know where to not walk their dogs.
Okay,
But wouldn't you want to have to me, that's a generic thing. I think it's whoever is responsible for that piece of land, that walking, that trail, should also have the same thing under the appropriate jurisdiction. Because
So this- Yeah,
wouldn't the stewardship also want to put signs about dogs?
Well, they do, yeah. There are signs.
So again, we're excluding all the other trails and all the other land trails in town by just saying it's just the Trails Committee.
so yeah, I see what you're saying, but I don't know exactly. There's an issue with having Trails Committee responsible for that.
Yeah, that's what I'm just saying, under their jurisdiction. And that way there, it's the Southborough Trails, it's the Stewardship Committee, because they'll be under their jurisdictions of what the appropriate signs are about, you know,
So-
dogs are allowed or not. I'm just trying to make that more generic to be all the committees that have.
That's the problem.
specific-
It can't be all because somebody doesn't want Trails Committee to help with all. They want Trails Committee to just do Trails Committee stuff. So that's
I
the
know that-
problem. How do you make it? How do you make it?
Agreed.
How do you make it universal? And then have one party responsible?
That's true. One party cannot be responsible. It has to be all parties equally under
Maybe
their
it's
own
an asterisk,
jurisdiction.
Because this has some legal restrictions that other implementation steps don't really have. So maybe you have Trails Committee responsible asterisk for footnote says for trails under the Trails Committee jurisdiction, as other committees, other groups are responsible for trails under their respective jurisdictions or something like that.
So I had initially had, and I took it out, but in partnership with others, because the Trails Committee, I think, is comfortable working with all other groups and, collaborating. And if we needed one party to work with other groups to make sure things were,
Mhm.
that these were taken care of, then we'd be comfortable doing that. But I think that would require other committees to be open to our partnership and leadership in that way. And that's what I'm not sure is. So that would be one way to make it universal, is if you, in partnership with other committees, commissions, and boards, then the Trails Committee could be responsible for this piece, right? And then that would mean that we're not telling stewardship or telling anyone else what is going on, but we're working with them to ensure this is done, for example. So that would be,
Yeah.
Maybe in
I'm
partnership. with other
comfortable with that.
As agreed.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, Kat.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, just because you take the lead doesn't mean that
right,
you have the responsibility or
right. We
Sure.
just work with them.
even the jurisdiction to do that particular thing, but just to,
What do
so
you
what do
think?
we want to change it to?
So assess.
so the
and-
in partnership that Kat mentioned.
Yeah,
I think
so,
it's fine.
You see in
So
partnership.
go back in the
we would get rid
recording.
of- We would get rid of. We would get rid of under STC jurisdiction, so assess and add signage to educate trail users about permitted uses on trails.
Under their jurisdiction.
Under
under-
their respective jurisdictions.
In partnership with other. do we have to say commissions, boards and committees, all of it? Or is there one word that
Other entities,
Entity,
other entities?
other entities.
Yeah, like Mimi said, we take the lead, but doesn't, again, it's not responsible for all trails. We're just taking the lead of the master
Yeah.
plan.
And are you comfortable with that, Tom, as a Trails Committee? I'm comfortable taking that on, I think.
Yeah.
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 so
We
we're
just don't
gonna,
want to, we just want to make sure we're coordinated and are reporting it as in the master plan, because again, just because we're taking the lead does not mean we do everything like we
Exactly.
right.
said earlier. We're
Right.
just
Yeah.
taking the lead saying, yep, stewardship, what's
And
your.
they manage their own, but we just.
Right, and they manage their own, and we just report it up.
Yeah.
so we're removing the no, not their job.
No,
that
no.
Well,
part.
I kind of like that part. But I do think it's important to include the words dog walking, dogs in this, because I think that is a big problem in town, as, I'm not just, promoting the dog waste education campaign that's currently going on.
Pat, you're playing with fire here. You know that.
Mhm.
Hey, it's life, right? We gotta have the difficult conversations to make things happen, so it is.
Well, you've got to get some community input. You can't just dictate it.
What for
Dictate,
community?
don't poop on the trails. I think you can dictate that.
Well, you can because. it's
Yeah,
not our
no,
property.
that's not what they're saying. You have to understand it. They're talking about dog walking on leash, off leash, etc. They don't care. And yet what they're trying to do is they're trying to establish a policy by which people take care of dog feces on the trail. So they have eliminated dogs altogether as a mechanism to do that. And
That's not them.
I-
That's,
Do you
Their-
mean
their
the
agreements.
DCR? Who's they? Just curious.
well, I understand there's some legal issues associated with the Quabbin Reservoir, but there are other trails also which apparently we're not going to allow dog walking on or restrict dog walking on. All I'm saying is that if in fact you run into those situations that are not covered by legal restrictions, as almost all committees in town which are trying to do this sort of thing, or that is, are trying to establish policy like this, you try to get some community input on it. Because I've seen some stuff in my Southborough, for example, and I've heard people who walk dogs, and there's all I'm saying is that there are some people who are expressing some strong opposition to it. That's all.
Oh, I mean, I think we're bound by the landowners in most of Southborough's in the watershed. So those trails that are most popular on the DCR land, we those aren't rules that we're making or
Yeah.
the town is making. That's a DCR.
It's the permitted use policies of the
Yeah.
owner of the trails. I mean,
And
Well,
their
yeah,
priority and what it's based on, Bill, and I don't want to go too far deep. It's based on their priority is keeping the watershed clean and the water clean. So that's their first priority. And
Yes, but you understand that dogs have been walking there for 40 or 50 years and no one has said a thing about it. So
mhm.
anyway,
that
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
mean
I
we're allowed
get
to.
it. I get it. I do.
Is town
Um,
forest available for dog walking?
Yes, but
Yeah.
we can't, yes, but yep, it is.
Okay.
And so is Breakneck Hill.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
There's.
But neither of those, your dogs can poop there.
No,
yes, they can all,
Up
they can
dog.
poop. They can poop. You can't stop a
You-
dog from pooping.
you just
You have
have
to
to
pick it up.
You have to pick it up.
so let's get, so sorry for the topic. So access and signage to educate.
Yeah,
No
There's
user
been a lot of dog poop talked about tonight.
I know.
park.
And you guys see the size of my dog?
Yeah.
Ah,
So,
you've identified-
so do we
you've
want to
identified
get
the problem.
something- Oh, bad, I cut you off.
It's called
So
root cause
we want to
analysis.
have something in there, Kat, that speaks to this or reflects the fact that these entities have jurisdiction over certain trails.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this needs a little bit of work.
With other
on-
entities with jurisdictions over, like you just said, Judith. I think that makes it very
Individual
clear.
properties or something.
Who maintain trails. Or who
Well,
oversee trails, other trails.
jurisdiction on other trails, something like that.
How about that? Over specific.
I think since we're talking about trails, I think you're gonna mention the word. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, access.
Woof. Good. I'll tidy the rest of it up.
Thank you. Whew, that was a hot topic.
Okay, so let's get rid of this one. Okay, so this is a section I went through in some detail with Melissa because it's the Conservation Commission who are responsible for, they're the sponsoring agent of these recommendations. So the proposal, these additional 3.2 B, C, and D are proposals from the OSPC group to add more recommendations. Now, when Melissa and I went through this and talked about, and this, I've given this feedback back to Karen, and obviously therefore to Freddie, is that we really, these are recommendations that are so detailed, they're just not really at the level of the master plan. And some of them actually duplicate what's already in the OSRP plan. And one of the things we said right from the get-go is that we're not going to duplicate other people's plans because otherwise the master plan would be huge. So the proposal is not to include these additional ones. If the OSPC wants to add them, they should be adding them into their next iteration of the OSPC. So that was that. Those. And 3.6 again. This was just another. It just seemed to be that they wanted to be very specific about how Conservation Commission would go about doing this 3.6 to prevent encroachment. And that was my comment there, is that it's up to the Conservation Commission to decide how they want to do it. I very much doubt that they'll set up another committee to monitor conditions. I mean, that's the responsibility of the Conservation Commission in managing those conservation lands. So that was really just, again, comments back to Karen and Freddie. These are the timelines and funding sources for the Conservation Commission that I've gone through with Melissa, all pretty straightforward. Oh, there's the tree canopy bylaw. Yeah, you're right. It is in there, Karen.
It's under land use also.
Yeah, we just have. I'll just go back and make sure we've got the same timelines on it. Okay, this is the area that, again, and I'll just summarize here because there's a lot of detail here. So the OSPC, these are recommendations around invasive species that the OSPC explicitly asked to be put into the master plan. And this goes back to the original working groups that we had, 2 years ago. Now, the concern that they're flagging is that they don't have the authority to make anything happen, and they don't have budget or resources to make anything happen. So I had a fairly lengthy conversation with Karen today, and she will share this back with Freddie, that being put down as a person responsible or the group responsible does not mean that you have to do it. Right? It's about making sure it gets done. And again, the conversation we had earlier this evening about budget and resources, same situation for a lot of groups. They're saying, we really want to do this. We know we don't have the budget and resources, but we're going to go out there and we're going to work out how we're going to get it done. So, certainly Melissa felt that these are not, even if these were transferred to the Conservation Commission, and OSPC would have to ask Conservation Commission to take responsibility for them. They can't just kind of throw them over the wall and say, oh, we're not doing this, it's yours. The Conservation Commission would need extra budget and resources because they're not currently set up to do this. So certainly Karen understood what we were trying to do here. And one of the things I've said that we will definitely do is make it clear in the implementation plan that that responsibility means you're responsible for making sure it gets done, not necessarily doing it. And, you know, if the funding can't be found, then that is a legitimate reason for the recommendation not being implemented. So I think that will address the concerns that they have there. And you know, this again, very specific, you know, 4.A about insect worm infestations. It's like, wow.
Yeah, so I think that that's covered in the other one, the 4.0.
Yeah.
You know, it's insect worm and lanternfly today. It's going to be something else tomorrow, something else.
Agreed.
after that.
I think we need to be more general about
Yeah.
that.
Right, which it's covered in the one above, the invasive species.
Yep. And I never knew that the Conservation Commission was responsible for that,
Or
for the invasive species.
well, they're not. So what happens with invasive species is generally where the Conservation Commission will get involved is if there are projects that come before the Commission for wetland protection approval as part of the, you know, the planning application, or for stormwater permits. Generally what we'll do is when we look at the plans and the environmental consultant goes out and sees that, okay, you want to do development in this area and it's got bittersweet all over it, part of the order of conditions for that project, for that permit, will be to, you know, effectively remove the invasive species.
But that's project for project, not
That's project for
town-wise.
project. Yeah. This is a whole set of you know, much more high level recommendations that OSPC specifically came up with. And, you know, I remember having a conversation with Karen that this was the kind of almost like the sister project to the native plantings, that if you get rid of invasive species, it allows you then to kind of get the native plantings to come through. So, you know, it's if you look at the remit of the CONCOM, you know, the charge is that they're responsible for natural resources, but you know, at this point, you know, the Conservation Commission isn't resourced for any of this. It specifically came up through OSPC. So
Yeah, I see OSPC as having sort of town-wide responsibility,
I do too.
and CONCOM is, as you're suggesting, project focused, and certainly should work in the same direction, but seems to.
Right, unless it comes in front of the Concom, you can't be a town-wide policing of invasive species. That's what, I'm just 2 cents. I think it should be OSPC, not Concom, but that's my 2 cents.
2.
Yeah, me too.
That's 4 cents, 6 cents.
And I think
No,
that,
almost a copy.
I think that's in the OSRP too. The removal of invasive species.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is more of a concern over, you know, I have to use this word, Sam, the remit of the OSPC, the charter of the OSPC is, you know, when you read the charter, it's one line that says facilitate protection and preservation. So I kind of understand the perspective that they have no authority to do anything, but then I guess I'm tough love here, then change the charter. You know, go
Yeah.
before select board and town meeting if necessary and change the charter so you have authority to do things and get the budget and the resources. So anyway, my own personal opinion.
Are we getting close here? I want to make sure we get to the pictures.
Yes, we are very close. Yeah, just 4.3, there's a phrase here that says can't, but my feedback to Karen was if you can't do it, then the recommendation gets withdrawn. You can't have a recommendation and then say no, you can't do it. So I think that is it. Pictures. Thank you, peeps. Thank you for bearing with me as we go through that. Okay. Pictures.
No minutes this time.
Oh, yeah, let's do the minutes.
No pictures.
Okay, so how do we want to do this? We actually had, I think it was, we had 20 submissions and 99 pictures in total. So I have loaded them all up on the master plan Google Drive. And the question I would have for the committee is what would be a good next step, you know, to go through and kind of look at what we have, take a quick, inventory and then see if, compare it to our chapters, see if we feel like it's representative of what we need. And if we don't need, I think there was a volunteer, was it you, Mimi, or was it you, Judith, that said that Gina would go out and take pictures or kind of fill in the gaps.
I thought that's what I'd heard Gina say.
Yeah. So what's the best use of our time now? Do we want to look at them, or do we want to just talk about strategy and do that offline?
Maybe individual flip through and pick each of us, the top 10 or whatever we think are the best ones to use.
Do you want to look at
These
any of
places.
them now?
We have a quick look just to see
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
what we've got.
Can you share, Kat? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Can you guys see the Google
Yep.
Drive?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. And you can still see the pictures?
Oh, that's cool.
Nice,
Okay.
yeah.
I love this picture because we are using the crosswalk.
Mm.
Is this the sidewalk picture?
Do you say the sidewalk?
The crosswalk.
Wow.
Oh, wow. These are some good pictures.
Yes, Al's really good at that. This is one of my favorite, I hope, because it is of the train station.
Yeah,
That's a good one too.
that is very cool. Nice lighting in there.
Yep, very good lighting.
That's nice.
This
Oh
is
yeah.
beautiful, but probably commercial. I
Melty,
know.
yeah.
I want to go
I
home
know.
now.
He's probably in a hamburger right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Judith.
See a brisket.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool. That Brian won a contest with.
Oh
Ooh,
my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, did
That-
you want to see that one? Sorry. Yeah. Beautiful.
There's some really good ones, Kat.
Yeah, I know. It was great, great output, or I mean, input. So we, the police department ended up sending in a couple pictures. So I reached out to the fire department and said, hey, the police department did, do you want to? So they sent the pictures. Little
and
competition.
of course they did.
Yeah.
That's
So
not the
this-
one where they were putting the foam into the wetland, though, is it?
Oh, is that what that's, well, I figured this,
No.
this is
No.
this is a
Okay.
really good
No,
option.
that looks
because-
like they're putting out a fire.
Well,
with
it's coming
foam going
far.
into the wetland.
It was some got hurt, so I wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, these are a couple of good shots.
What, no hovercraft?
Oh, cool.
Wow, some really good pictures here.
Mm.
Yeah, lot to choose from.
We're gonna have to expand the
we-
master plan to 500 pages.
Here's our one and only Debbie. That's cute.
Oh, wow.
We did get an email from an individual that said a picture of my house was used in the last master plan. Don't do that again.
Oh,
So I
Oh,
figured
wow.
we don't need to. This one, yeah, these are really gorgeous.
Mm.
So I would say our open space section
Cool.
satisfied. You know, we definitely have a lot to choose
Yeah.
from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, the bunnies.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll go back.
I love it.
Oh
I
my
love
God, these are all so great.
I know. That tree, I love, it's in Beals Preserve. That's just a gorgeous tree. Too bad.
Yeah.
it's-
Oh, that's a nice one for the trail section. Kat.
Mhm.
Yeah, the granite post. That was MWA put a grant. They had a grant, the Mass Trails grant that put 2 of those in town for each municipality for the Aqua Trail.
Oh, cool.
That's nice.
I love Gosling. So, yeah,
I love that.
yeah, I know. Mm,
I love them all. How many pictures do you think we can jam into the master plan?
A lot, unless Judith says no.
I mean, we make them small.
Yeah,
we
you
can,
can.
you know.
I think I love pictures, and I think it will break up some of the monotony.
Yeah,
Honestly.
and they're all so good.
So let me ask you, do you intend the pictures to be black and white or in color in the master plan?
Color,
Oh,
That's
Oh,
good.
is that, because it's not a printed document, right?
right.
Yeah, we'll do.
Well-
We'll do some printing.
There'll be some printed.
Yeah,
but
that's a
color
great
printed.
one.
Yeah, the townhouse. Yeah, Judith, I
Yeah.
agree. That was a good one.
So, so I was thinking color, yeah,
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
yeah. This is a beautiful one too, I love this.
Hmm.
Wow.
Oh, the ducks going under. The geese.
That's art on the
Oh,
trail.
Art on the Trail,
Wow.
it's cool.
This was a really good one too, I really like it.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's really
yeah.
nice too.
Right? You could see that.
So much talent in this town.
Hey, is that the one where I was up in there?
Oh
Oh,
my
I don't-
God, did you go up in that
I
thing?
did. I did. I had
Oh
a
my
meeting
God.
as they were testing and they invited me to put on the gear and go up. Yeah,
Oh, that's.
it was,
Oh,
the view is absolutely incredible.
Were you roped in?
I was, Sam, I had a helmet on and a harness and yeah.
no, thank you.
That could be a problem for the fire department budget if they dropped you from that.
Yeah, I know.
Do you remember this? So Mimi, you submitted this. This is of
Yeah.
the, one of the first.
Way
it
at
was
the
during
beginning when
tour.
we went on the tour.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, it's okay to have people as long as the people are
Oh,
okay.
that's pretty.
Yeah,
That one,
isn't
can you go back for 1 second? That is
Mhm.
stunning.
it?
the
Yeah,
clouds?
that's really cool.
The reflection.
Yeah.
I love reflection pictures.
Mm,
Oh, that's so neat.
wow. You almost want to print some of them and hang them in your house. They're
Mm.
gorgeous.
Oh, was that like a pandemic birthday or something? The drive?
Yes,
This
it
one.
was. Yep. That was a food drive they did. Oh, that was our female officer coming on.
mhm.
Oh, wow. I kidding.
Officer Campbell.
Okay, so I reached out to the library just to ask them for any pictures that they might have. I might have received 100. So
Surprise me.
and so I took a lot of them had images of people. So I took most of those and just tried to pick some that were representative of the library and the services they provide. So these were just a few, and most of
That's a
these
good one.
are people with their backs. So I thought that, aside from that little kid, that might be okay. Because I don't, and this one's really cute.
That's nice.
That's
That
a
is.
library employee, so we could easily get permission. Right?
Yeah, that's Miss Kim, yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like this one because
Yeah.
I think a Choke Fund grant paid for that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, we have one more. Oh, okay.
Mm,
I won't make my comment.
I know.
Actually, those might be, I don't know, those might be Chestnut Hill.
Well, we shouldn't have that one with the dog on the water, though.
Well, we can't use that one because I think it's illegal. I think
Yeah.
where that's on the wrong trail. Yeah, sorry.
Just want to say that's not a Saint Bernard.
Not your
Meanwhile,
day.
we're gonna, no, I'm just joking.
Oh, there's a nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim has a good eye. So, so we got some really good ones.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice job, Kat. Great
Yeah, well, no, I
idea.
mean,
Good idea.
nice
Mhm.
job, people of Southborough, right? I think it was a great way to engage the community again, giving them an opportunity. And, I think having your picture in the master plan as, your little claim to fame, not that many care, but it's kind of.
We're
a
gonna
nice
give
touch.
credit to the artist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
we should,
credit, yeah.
yeah, we should definitely source them.
I agree. I agree that we should.
Yeah, so
at least-
each picture, I made sure I had a name on it. So their first initial and last name on each of the pictures. So every picture has some sort of name. So if you're going through and picking them, I guess we should. I think it might make sense if we had an Excel spreadsheet. And this is a little bit of work up front, but it will ease our pain later if we had a worksheet of all of the pictures. And then people were able to rank them, maybe have the columns be all of us and we rank them. And then we can tally which photos have the most votes as one
Yep.
option. But
What do you, sorry, what do you think about, I mean, all of these people actually took the time and there were great pictures in each. What if we started, everybody like pick the top two? Again, I think it's wonderful and it'd be great to recognize all of these people that took the time. Again, just my 2 cents.
Yep.
Maybe that's a good starting point is to pick, everybody pick their top 1 or 2 from the pictures that were submitted.
I like that.
From
From
each person.
Yeah, from each person. And then, again, they took the time to
Oh,
submit
from
all
each
these.
person. Oh,
Oh,
that,
so each
that I could do.
folder will take the
Yep.
top 2 that you
yeah,
like.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
good idea. I
I
thought
just
you were
then-
saying overall. I don't think.
Oh,
I could
no.
Ever do
No,
that.
no. I just think from each 2, and then we can go from there, depending on how many spots we have, but at least everybody that
that's a
took the
good
time
idea.
gets recognized.
Yep, good idea.
Okay.
So maybe
uh,
that's homework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
think,
maybe the other thing to think about when you're going through and picking those is it would be great to have picture coverage in every chapter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, circulation and transport, the historic one, I think there's enough housing. I think that would be good to see if we can then, maybe
Try
that's
and tie them to particular
situation
chapters.
in the top 2.
well, is that part of the, you pick 2 and what chapter do you want to assign it to as a?
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
as a
Or we
part
could
of
just
the
pick the top
discussion.
2 and then we'd have all of the participants covered and then go back and pick others to go with the chapters as long as we include everybody. I don't know.
that's a lot of photos.
Yeah, I would think
I
it
wonder if
would
we
be.
can try and pick 2, bearing in mind that we've got to try and cover every chapter, that because
Yeah.
everyone will look at it differently and come up with
Right.
their own different
I mean-
favorites anyway.
And ultimately, you may only use 1 from each, or, maybe 2 as you go through for the chapters, But I think, I don't know, I think it's a good starting point. And I agree, Judith, in trying to how we maybe would, what a chapter you may attach it to, I think would be fruitful as well.
Okay. And so I think it would be beneficial to have a repository, like an Excel spreadsheet where we're all putting in our votes. Because otherwise, are you asking people to come to the meeting with that information and then we record it live? Or do you want it recorded in advance of the meeting? To
I
streamline.
think
it.
having the spreadsheet would be great.
Mhm.
So I can try to do that tonight and get that. So it will sit outside of these folders as just an Excel.
Oh,
Okay.
and then we
Okay.
fill it out, would we, under our name?
Yeah, I'll have an assigned column for each person, so you can just vote under your column. And then you
Awesome.
And
put
the,
notes for the chapters.
are the photos identified, contributor number 1 dash photo 1 dash photo 2 dash photo 3? Is there
No,
some-
sir. No, it's kind of, I don't want to have to go through and do that if you don't mind, because I'm
No,
overloaded. So I
No.
think the way that they're named now is fine. Like that they each have an identifier.
Okay,
First initial and last name of each person's picture is there. And then
Yep.
it either has a description or it has a number.
oh, good.
So
okay.
I don't want to have to go through and redo all of that just because it's
Nope.
time not well
Problem.
spent.
No,
No
that's
problem,
fine.
just a
Yep.
unique
It's a great
identifier.
suggestion, but.
Yeah,
If
It's
someone-
awesome, Kat. Thank you.
great
Yeah,
work.
so that was fun. Thanks, Southborough.
A lot of fun.
So next steps is next. Other than everybody email Sam every single day and tell him to finish his chapter.
Great.
Of course.
I thrive on abuse. Go ahead.
So, what are next steps? So town meeting is 4 weeks away.
We have to get the implementation stuff back. So I have this is who we have. One I prepared earlier. So Shopsy, we've got you're going to go back on that one.
Yep. Yeah, I'm hoping to give it, well, I will give it to you tomorrow because I'm away for the weekend. So you will get it tomorrow.
Okay. Hey Debbie, is there anything that you want to come back on from with your ZBA hat on, or are you good with everything?
You mean for land use and zoning or just anything?
Or for anything? Yeah, I think I put you down for EDT and planning board, land use. Are you good? You feel you've?
Can I look at it one more time?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got, I will follow up with Kristen on recreation. Select board, we need yours.
Yep.
I sent out, so there's no recommendations currently assigned to the Council on Aging, the CPC, SPAC, or there was one other group and I can't remember who it was. And Gina has it because she's a member at large. So I sent out an email to everybody, to Andrew and Joyce, Bill, copied you as well, and Gina, and just asked for any comments. I haven't had anything, so we're getting to the point where if I haven't heard from people, my assumption is going to have to be then there's nothing going to come. So, but I will send out one more reminder. And the rest of the haven't heard anything from Katura either. I'll follow up with her, but so it's the select board.
Yep.
Lisa and Sam.
get that done.
Thank you. So yeah, if we can get feedback, there's a couple of update. I need to get the open space chapter out to Debbie so she can add her section. If we can get that back this week, that would be great. And then Debbie, I owe you a list of here's all the things that we're going to look at to standardize on. I'm sorry, it goes in the same pot as Sam's stuff. It's like I'll get to it. but
It's
I've
all in
started-
your head, right?
It's all in my head. It's all in my head. I've just got to get it on a bit of paper. So I'll try and get you that in the next week as well, because it would be great just to, I think it's more a question of just agreeing what it is that we want to standardize on. And there's definitely a couple of things that you can help
Yeah.
just by going through the chapters, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
no, I'm happy to help. When do you think that will be going on? What do you think, in a couple of weeks, or what's the target at that point?
probably next week or the week after.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And then I'm meeting with this friend of mine who's going to help me with the formatting on Friday. So I'll have a kind of a first pass of what that might look like in terms of, you know, just an example of a chapter in the format. So
Can I ask you about linking? You mentioned
oh,
link-
hyperlinking. Yeah.
hyperlinking. Because if you're looking at an electronic copy, will the links work?
Yes, they should do. They should.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think the key is making sure that all of the documents are there and active
Mhm.
and up to date. And I did write to, who's the IT guy, Jason?
Jay Montijo, yeah.
Yeah, I wrote to Jason back in middle of March and said, can you give us some guidance? But I haven't heard back to him. So I just pinged it to Bill Warren and said, can you help us get an answer here? Because we just need to decide whether or not we should keep going with the Google Drive or whether or not the protocols would suggest that we need to get it onto the website. You
Yeah.
know, and if we
You
do,
mean, so
then
you mean the plan itself? And any supplemental?
no,
evidence?
no. It's the hyperlink document. So, for example, where we're hyperlinking to an organization that's within the town, we can just hyperlink it to the website.
Yeah.
But if we, for example, there's
The
The MV
surveys,
the surveys,
surveys.
for example.
Oh, yeah.
And there's lots of other documents that
Oh,
we
right.
might be able to hyperlink to that we need to kind of store them somewhere. And I think we probably shouldn't be storing them in a Google Drive.
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think they should all be on the master plan site and linked to from there. That would be my recommendation.
Website.
But we don't necessarily want to have, you know, let's say there's 50 documents. We don't want to have 50 documents visible. We want to have
Yeah,
it.
you don't have to have them visible. They can, so I do this all the time with Trails Committee. So we can have documents that we link to, but they're not showing up on the site. Is that what you mean? So it's kind of like a central repository behind the scenes. And it's just not visible to everybody, but it's on the
Right.
website and it's being backed up by the website and the town. And that
Correct.
everything is in one location. Does that help answer that question?
Yes, except I
So
still don't.
that's completely possible.
Help us. Sounds like you know how to do it. So
Well, no, I mean, I don't mean to sound like I know.
no. I'm
I do
like,
it all the time with Trails and I'm happy to.
that's
help.
exactly what we want. That's exactly what we want. I should have gone to that training on how to use the town website, shouldn't I?
Judith, would it be helpful for me to meet with the person that you're going to be speaking to about formatting? Would that help me, you know, for what I need to do? To just listen in on your conversation or just meet with you guys together?
Mm,
No?
Maybe we've got two meetings. One is I just have to show her a lot of stuff so that she can think
Okay.
about it. And then we have another meeting where we're going to get together and talk about how we do it. That one is going to be on the 18th of April.
Okay.
This is just like a first introduction, just to try and help orient her.
Okay. Maybe the
the-
second one, if it's. if-
Yeah, the
if you
second
think
one.
so.
Will be great.
Okay,
Yeah, so I will. Let me
Yeah.
put that in there.
I'll join you if
No, that would be great.
Yeah.
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 More heads is
we
better.
would
than-
have an action plan.
Yeah.
We know who's doing what.
Yeah.
Yep. And are we gonna end up printing some copies for the townhouse, but it's mainly gonna be digital? Is that right?
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do we all get an honorary copy? Printed? for our
Autograph.
hard work?
We shall, we shall.
Everybody
see.
has to autograph it from the very beginning, whoever started.
Yeah.
I like-
Okay,
We'll have them available for our party.
Maybe a memorial copy would be more appropriate.
So homework for the next meeting, everybody go online and rank your pictures.
Pictures.
Starting
you-
tomorrow.
We already know
Yeah,
about Sam. And the select board implementation. And then there were a couple of others that are still hanging out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll follow it with Kristen.
Okay, Rick, that's was. All right, and I think that we have managed to chase off any attendees. Yep, we have. Must have been the dog poop conversation.
What? I don't understand. Are you guys watching the videos? Some of them are fun.
They actually are quite good, those educational stuff on dog poop.
Wait
I
until
do
we get to
enjoy
the
it.
dog. Wait until we get to the dog poop fairy. You're gonna love that.
This
Do
is
we
a
have dog
Netflix
poop
series.
videos too?
You have not. Oh, Mimi.
I have yet to live, evidently.
Mm,
So approval of the minutes from the March 9th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to go over those? Do I hear a motion
So move.
in a second?
Second.
Second.
Judith beat you to the punch, Bill.
That's okay.
Roll call. Signs,
Aye.
Stivers,
Aye.
Watson,
Yes.
Marklear,
yes,
McKee,
Here, yes. Sorry.
Rashio,
Yes,
and Latrell, yes. Very good. And set a date for the next meeting. So 4 weeks from today is town meeting. We want to try and sneak one in before, or,
We should.
Probably wouldn't hurt, yeah.
so for Mimi, I know the 18th is vacation week for the kids at school. I don't know if that really affects anybody here, but I know from like the Board of Selectmen standpoint, we don't have a meeting that week. So the 20th, if that works, just a
Mhm.
suggestion. So it's 2 weeks.
Yeah,
would that work? Is that enough time, Judith?
yeah.
You can say no. I mean, certainly we can
No,
do
no,
it.
no. As long as people get me stuff by the end of next week, I can turn it around.
Okay.
end of this week, I thought you said.
End of this week. Well,
Don't give Sam time.
I was starting to feel pretty good there.
well. Tuesday
I believe
next,
the 27th is open meeting law training, and that's at
Yes.
7 o'clock
Yeah,
at night, so that would be a
yeah, I
conflict.
see that.
It's candidates night too, so we'll lose Debbie.
Oh, it's candidates night?
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
Same
that's
night.
it.
They're having candidates night on the same night as open meeting law training? That's not a
Yep.
good idea.
Yeah.
it was not perfect, but
20th, it sounds like that's the
But
right
if they
date. then.
recorded it and it was on Zoom, then everyone would go to both. See?
I know.
So would the 20th work, Judith? or
Works
do
for
you
me.
need Time,
works for me.
Okay, good.
yeah?
yep.
You're looking a little nervous there.
For me? No.
Piece of cake.
So that works for everyone, April
Yep.
20th.
Mhm.
And I think that's it. I
Fantastic.
hear a motion to adjourn
So move.
in a second.
Second,
Oh, you got that one. Bill.
I got it in.
Fast.
Roll call signs,
Aye.
Stivers,
Aye.
Watson,
Yes.
Marklear,
Yes.
McKee,
Yes.
Braccio,
Yes.
and Latrell, yes. Thank you very much, everyone. Another
night, everyone.
productive meeting. Thank you for
Thanks,
making it
everyone.
happen, Lisa.
Thank you.
Sorry I was late. Thank you.
Oh,
This
no,
forum
thank you for
Comes
coming.
again.
Everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Guys.
Right.